Hello, I'm Jeremy Hayes, and welcome to a special Friday edition of Clash of the Rams. Along with me, I have Mike McMahon.
What's up, guys?
And Eric Ruza. All right, we're going to just jump right into the stories, and we're going to discuss the Major League AL MVP first. So, Mike, what do you think?
Well, going out through a lot of the season, it was a big race, but, now it's pretty much one-man show when Cabrera clinched the Triple Crown, so he kind of ran away with it. But you got to talk about Mike Trout. I mean, he was not going to win the MVP, but incredible season. First player ever to bat .320 with 30 home runs, 45 stolen bases. Historic, best rookie of all time, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, we're not going to disagree on the AL MVP. I think Cabrera is the guy, first Triple Crown winner since 1967, since Carl Yastrzemski, so you can't overlook that. He had a monster year, 330, 44 home runs, 139 RBIs. Just a monster Manny Ramirez type year. Probably the best right-handed season we've seen since Manny. Trout had a great year. It's a shame that he can't win the MVP, but I think you have to go with the guy who led a team who was struggling most of the season and led them to a great comeback in the second half and to the World Series.
I think if the Angels were able to get themselves into the playoffs, it might have been a little bit closer than it's going to end up being, but still, it's an historic race. Probably closer than last year was. I know there was a lot of controversy with Verlander winning. I think this year is closer than that between the Triple Crown and then arguably the best rookie ever.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a big race. It's going to go down in the history books.
Trout has plenty of time to win an MVP.
He'll get at least one.
I think we all know Cabrera definitely earns it.
Yeah, no doubt.
It's his time.
Yeah. All right, so as far as Cy Youngs, can we just get a little more in depth on that for each league?
Well, Cy Young, right now I'm thinking the favorite's going to be David Price from Tampa. He had a great season, 20 wins, over 200 Ks. But I'm not overlooking Justin Verlander just yet. A lot of people are saying he didn't have as good as a season as last year. He had arguably one of the best pitching seasons ever last year.
Yeah.
So, it's going to probably be Price, but Verlander had a great year too.
I think Price gets a little overlooked in Tampa. Obviously, he had an unbelievable year, 20-5, but I think Verlander's the guy again. He was pretty much, like you said, the same guy, just a little bit more under the radar this year, but he's the best in the business right now. Justin Verlander is the guy that you look to as that preeminent pitcher right now. He struggled a little bit in the playoffs, but we know the votes go in before the playoffs, so I think he's the guy. But Price will be knocking on the door.
Yeah, I think when the baseball writers vote for this, they overlook 20 wins. I think 20 wins is something that's very overrated when it comes to voting for Cy Young. You look at Verlander, he didn't have the run support he had last year, which is why he didn't get as many wins.
Yeah.
Last year, that offense. This year, the offense, the Tigers struggled at times. They only won 80-something games. So a lot of that, his Ks were about the same, and his whip was around the same area that it was last year. So really, his performances were just as good as they were.
A perfect example of that is Felix Hernandez.
Yeah.
Perfect example.
Wins don't necessarily mean anything for the Cy Young Award.
Yeah. Any other, as far as the awards, any other honorable mentions or anybody you want to bring up that you want to say they deserve something or at least recognition for what they did this past season?
In the American League?
Either league in the MLB.
Oh, geez, I don't have anybody.
Well, we'll get to the NL in a second. But for pitchers, Jared Weaver had a really good first half. He had some injury problems in the in the second half, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But he had a great first half. And then Fernando Rodney as a closer has just about as good as a season of closers has ever had.
Yeah.
So, I'll give him a shout out.
I will mention, actually, Adrian Beltre had another great season for the Rangers.
Yeah.
I think he was named a finalist for the AL MVP, so he's a guy, too.
All right. Well, as far as NL awards, you guys want to get into that?
Well, for MVP, it's looking like it's going to be Buster Posey.
Yeah.
After, the whole thing with Melky Cabrera happened, a lot of people were thinking that the Giants were down and out. But Posey had a great second half, put up great numbers. A case can be made for Ryan Braun, but after the scandal with him last year, it's not looking too good for his case. Writers kind of want to shy away from him. So
Ryan Braun was so under the radar this year.
Yeah.
I honestly didn't hear anything about him throughout the whole season. And he had just as good of a year as he had last year. But it's obviously that PED thing last year.
Yes,
Once that happens, even though he was, exonerated, I guess, he still has that cloud over him.
Yeah.
And I think Posey's the guy. This guy's legit.
He is.
We talked about Verlander being the preeminent pitcher in the league. Posey is the catcher that that everybody wants right now.
They call him the Derek Jeter of the West Coast right now in San Francisco.
All right,
Absolutely.
now we only have a little bit of time for this segment, but let's go to Cy Young for the NL.
Well, the fan favorite's R.A. Dickey. But my personal pick, Johnny Cueto in Cincinnati. He pitches in a pitcher's ballpark. Great American Ballpark is a bandbox. Now, launching pad, home runs all over the place. Cueto had an ERA 2.78, really good. 19 wins, which is one of those things writers overrate. 20 wins, 19, just as good. Cueto had a great season.
I'm going to go with Dickey. I think he's a great story, somebody that here in Boston we kind of like because of Tim Wakefield, obviously, that knuckleballer. To see what he did with that pitch this year is amazing. I think he's the guy.
Yeah.
All right, well, we're going to move on to our next segment, which we're going to be discussing the NBA. The NBA season has just started. So, guys, any thoughts on what's going on so far this season?
We got some breaking news.
We do.
Why don't you tell us about it?
Well, Mike Brown just got fired from the Lakers head coach job after just 5 games.
5 games.
1-4 start, so a little harsh.
Yeah, give me your thoughts on that, guys.
The Lakers,
It's pretty big.
they had that big three come together, Steve Nash, Dwight Howard, and look where they are. Nash is already hurt. He's going to be out for, I think, 3 weeks or something like that. Howard is still getting back from his injury. Kobe's a little banged up. So we've seen a trend over the last few years between them and the Eagles and the NFL and the Red Sox. They were supposed to have these great teams.
Terrible starts.
With great
Just early
superstar
on.
players.
Yeah.
And early on, it takes a while for them
Yeah.
to get into it. And we're seeing a little bit with the Celtics right now, too.
Yeah.
They brought in a bunch of new guys, but it's not going to happen overnight.
not picking
It's
up,
kind of
yeah.
funny. I feel like I'm saying Rome wasn't built in one day a lot in professional sports press conferences between the Heat last year and then now the Lakers this year. So it's kind of funny. But this Lakers team, I mean, they're going to be good. They're going to make the playoffs. They're going to be fine. Mike Brown getting fired after 5 games is ridiculous. If they turn the season around and end up having the best record in the NBA and people say, oh, great decision to fire Mike Brown, that's going to be ridiculous. They're going to make the playoffs. They're going to get their wins. They just need to get healthy. They're going to be fine.
No doubt. They're the team, along with the Thunder in the West, that we're going to look to. I know I said, they've struggled to get into it here early, but, once they get going, once they get the guys together, they have a long way to go still.
Yeah, they're too good.
And basketball is the one sport where I feel like people panic faster than any other sport.
It's just such a superstar league that's
exactly.
the mentality.
And as far like you guys mentioned, all the injuries with the Lakers, and you fire your coach after 5 games.
I mean, I think he was kind of doomed from the start.
Yeah.
I mean, replacing the Zen master.
Yeah.
Never really easy.
Still
So,
does.
I mean, he definitely has work cut out for him, and it just didn't work out. I mean, hopefully, he'll land somewhere probably. I don't know. Maybe not this season, but in the future.
Yeah, I definitely believe in the
Yeah.
future. I mean, the Lakers want him, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
obviously somebody will want him. But we're going to move on to another NBA topic, which is just the Boston Celtics, as you mentioned, Eric. They're 2-2. It's early still, way too early. But just what you've seen so far, give me your thoughts.
Well, they had such a rebuild after last season, obviously losing Ray Allen and just most of their bench that they had last year. They brought in 8 new guys, Courtney Lee, Barbosa, Jason Terry, and these guys are still getting it. Doc Rivers is still trying to figure out who fits with who because there's so many new guys, and you add them to Rondo and Garnett and Pierce and bringing Jeff Green back. Jeff Green is a guy who kind of has never gotten comfortable here since he's been here, especially with the condition that he had last year. So these guys, just like the Lakers, need time to mesh together. Doc's got to figure out what rotations work, who's going to play well with each other. And once that happens, they should be fine and be right there with the Heat because everyone else in the East is just beside, I think Indiana is the only other team that can really challenge anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're going to be better than fine. I think that they're going to be great. I know it's early, but I like them to make a big postseason run. I think I know I'm already talking postseason, scaring you guys, but I love the moves that they made considering what happened. I like Sullinger. I have big expectations for Sullinger and Fab Melo. Hopefully somewhere down the road in the future. Maybe this year. I don't know if that's going to happen.
I don't know about this year, but definitely
Down the
definitely
He'll
in the
get
future.
there.
And then I like Jason Terry.
Yes.
So I like that move that they made. I think that, like you said, if they can find that rotation, get comfortable with each other, I think that they're going to be a real contender. I think that they're the team to watch out for in the East, besides the Heat, obviously.
Yeah, and honestly, as far as the Celtics, it is way too early to start
It
saying
is.
whether to make the playoffs. But like, there are 8 people.
I'm
that
making
make
it now.
There are 8 people that make the playoffs. So I
Yeah.
mean, it's
Right.
realistic to talk about playoffs because they can make it easily. But as far as the Celtics, I don't feel that they can match the Heat, to be honest with you. The Heat, I think this is their best team, like, compared to last year and their first year. Like, they talked about their bench the first 2 years, how great it was. This year is the real year. I love Rashard Lewis on the team. I think that's, like, the key addition that's going to really take it away from them.
I look at it as they took them to Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals last year with an old team.
Yeah.
With Ray, with Garnett, with Pierce as the main guys. Now you have this new core of young guys, in in not Terry, but Barbosa and Lee and these guys who can come in and give you some energy. And I think once they mesh together, they can be, very tough to beat, even for the Heat. And I think, I mean, we didn't really see it opening night, but as the team gets together, I think
opening
they're
night,
going to
though.
be tough. Right.
There's only so much you can judge from opening night. Opening night's so overrated.
Yeah.
Teams are still cold. It's a long season.
Even 20 games into the season,
Yeah.
you still gotta be realistic and think there's
Right.
a long way to go. All right, well, we gotta move on to our next topic, which our next segment is about the NFL, which we're halfway through. We're almost to the playoffs. We're getting there. So, guys, just take it away as far as what you think we're gonna see the second half.
Well, I'll start with the Patriots. They have a pretty easy schedule with the exception of the back-to-back
tough games.
with the Texans and the Niners. Both those games are at home. So if they can win one of those games, I think that would be ideal, because the other 6 games that they have are the Bills, the Colts, the Dolphins, the Jets, the Jaguars, teams that they should beat. So at worst, they should be 7-1 in the second half of the season and roll into the playoffs again.
Yeah, I think that the Pats are still my pick out of the AFC. I still like them. I know the defense has struggled, but Tom Brady is just, I don't know. I have faith in Tom Brady.
He's still the man.
He's still the man. He's still the go-to guy. I don't care how bad the defense is. I have confidence that offense is going to pull it off.
Yeah, people need to remember, too, the defense. We have our 2 rookies that we drafted playing at safety because of Chung and Gregory.
Right.
So, I mean, we need to really say, okay, let's take a step back. This defense might get better as the year goes on.
And then there's one thing. I want to throw the Colts in as a game to watch for the Patriots. I'm not the Colts. I'm impressed with the Colts this year. And now that I'm talking about it,
they came out of nowhere.
Andrew Luck, I mean, I got him as a sleeper for MVP. I mean, he's turned the ball over a little bit, but what he has done there, considering what this team was like last year, the Colts were so bad. The Colts were a laughingstock. Luck's been good. Luck's looked very professional coming in. He doesn't look like a rookie quarterback to me. I don't think so. I mean, 6-3 the Colts are right now. They're on a roll. And I think that he could challenge. I mean, he's been a big game quarterback so far.
Yeah, I don't think the Patriots are going to lose that game, but it's
definitely
definitely going to be a fun game to watch to see Luck and what he can do in Foxborough against Brady. It's going to be a great matchup. And I want to go back to what Jeremy was talking about with the defense. The Patriots acquired Aqib Talib last week to kind of solidify their secondary. He's a guy who's been one of the better cornerbacks in the league. He's obviously had some major issues off the field,
a lot.
But if they can get him to play well for the last 7 weeks of the season, that could be huge. They can leave McCourty at safety, where he's kind of settled in a little bit and maybe a better fit for him. Put him at safety, have Chung and Gregory be at the other safety spot, have Arrington on the other cornerback, and I think that makes you a lot better. You're not relying on these guys like Alfonso Dennard and all those guys in the secondary that have struggled so far.
Yeah, the secondary has definitely been the weak point, and I think McCourty being a safety is going to make a huge difference. Because I think the safeties, especially in the secondary, have been the weak point. I mean, McCourty's done an all-right job being one-on-one. I mean, he shut down Larry Fitzgerald. I forget what week against the Cardinals.
Yeah.
So I mean, hopefully, the Patriots have a history of doing this, getting players that have kind of a bad rap around them, but have upside talent-wise, in the draft and in picking up free agents and stuff.
And it hasn't always worked.
It hasn't, but
it worked with Corey Dillon. It worked with Randy Moss.
It's worked more than it hasn't worked.
Right, but we saw last year it didn't work with Hainsworth and Ocho Cinco. But we'll see. We won't see this week because he's still suspended.
Yeah.
But we'll see come in a couple weeks against the Colts against Andrew Luck.
Yeah.
And when that game, back to that game, bring him in and having that secondary that you expect to have the rest of the year against Luck, who's becoming a premier quarterback.
And they're
is gonna
passing
be
team
huge.
too. They got no running game. You know, Donald Brown went down, and
Yeah.
you know Vic Ballard hasn't been doing much. So the Colts are going to come out throwing against the Patriots in a couple weeks.
Yeah. And before we move on to our next topic, we talked about with the NBA of how it's way too early, but in the NFL, we're halfway through, so you got to start knowing who's the legitimate team. So I just want to ask you two real quick, who you think is the team to beat, if you can only pick one?
Wow, that's a tough question. I would say I'm going to give you two.
All right,
In
I'm fine
the
with
AFC,
that. All
I
right.
think it's the Patriots and the Texans. I think the Ravens were there, but they have major injuries on defense. So I think it's the Patriots and the Texans in the AFC and the Niners in the NFC.
Well, I mean, there's an undefeated team in
I was
football.
about to say that, yeah.
There is the Falcons. They're 8-0. Who knows if they can make a run?
I think
I think Roddy White predicted that they were going to.
Yeah.
Did that happen?
Yeah.
So
He said it was possible that they would go 6-2.
I mean, yeah, I guess it is possible considering that they're still undefeated.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. Every team has one bad
I have
game.
no faith in the Falcons.
But my sleeper out of the
Wow.
NFC, I mean, the Bears are 7-1.
Yes.
I mean, Cutler has Cutler moments where he looks really bad.
I'm going to
but-
tell you why I have no faith in the Bears and I have no faith in the Falcons, because the Bears have Jay Cutler as their quarterback.
I'm
And
the same way,
Falcons
yep.
have yet to prove with Matt Ryan that
They
they
can
can
win
win in the
playoffs.
playoffs.
Exactly.
So until that happens, the Niners are the only team that
But Houston, you're saying Houston is... I
I
know.
think
I'm
Houston.
a little.
I think Houston last year, if they didn't have those major injuries
They
to
could've
Shaw,
gone for-
to
That's true.
Johnson, they would have challenged the Patriots big time for that
They had
spot
TJ
in the Super
Gates
Bowl.
in the playoffs. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I guess you got to think, if you don't have your starting
But,
quarterback,
I
it's
mean,
hard to win.
you look at the Bears. Cutler has, those Cutler moments where he looks really bad, kind of like Eli Manning used to. Eli Manning used to have those moments. But Cutler to Marshall is the most dangerous, I think, quarterback to receiver. When they're on, they're better than
When
anybody
they're
else.
on. Yeah.
They're on a lot, though. Marshall's having a great season.
We'll have to see in the playoffs, though. if
But
they'll be
that's
on.
true.
Yeah.
Playoffs are totally a different story. I mean, you look at what the Giants do. They go like 8-8 or 9-7, and then they win
and
the
you,
Super Bowl.
You can never rule out the Giants, obviously, because they seem to
can't.
go
I
on that
agree that-
second half run every year. So
I agree that the Bears, so that might be the shocking team of the NFL. I mean, everybody knew the Falcons were going to be pretty good.
Especially
but-
because Matt Forte's been banged up too. Matt Forte, Michael
Yeah.
Bush has had a big impact there, so that's good.
All right, well, we're going to move on to our final segment, which is the Ram Rants. So I'm just going to let you guys take it away. Go ahead, Eric.
yeah, I'm going to talk about some NHL lockout again. Some good progress this week. They've met 4 straight days. They're meeting today. So meeting that much can't be a bad thing. However, they still, from everything that you read about the talks over the last few days, while they're meeting for hours and hours on end, there seems to still be some tension and a divide among the two sides about what they do with not only the existing contracts, but a couple of other economic issues. So even though they've been meeting, they're still not close to that deal. So I think that we're still at least a few weeks away from anything being accomplished.
All right, Mike.
I'm talking a little college football. Alabama with the big win over LSU. Any Notre Dame football fan out there that thinks Notre Dame can keep up with Alabama or any SC team for that matter is out of their mind. They barely snuck by Pitt. It was almost a joke that they won that game because they got demolished in the first half. They played terribly. They don't have consistent quarterback performance to compete with a good SEC team. Alabama is the best team in the country, no doubt. They solidified it with their win last week. So Notre Dame fans, they're all pumped up about the undefeated season so far. Calm down because you're probably going to get blown out in a BCS bowl game.
Wow. All right, well, that's all for us today. Friday edition. This went well, right?
It did go well. I like this.
Yeah.
Nice lead into the weekend.
Yes. very
Maybe
good.
this will be a thing in the future. Friday edition.
Have a good
So
weekend, guys.
All right, guys. From us in Studio 73, we'll see you guys next time.